Welcome back to the Land Bulletin Podcast, where every other week we bring you experts in the field to impart their knowledge when it comes to the ranch and sporting property market, buying and selling advice, the latest best stewardship practices, as well as topics that impact landowners every day. I'm your host, Haley Mirr. Let's jump in. Runoff is at an all-time high, which means fishing season is upon us. Today, we dive into one of our elite fishing offerings, Elk Creek Ranch. Helping me out today is Harry Woodward, one of the listing agents representing our clients at Elk Creek Ranch. Harry is one of our fly fishing property experts and guided for many years. He knows how Elk Creek Ranch compares to other fly fishing properties and why this is a preeminent fishing club in Colorado. Without further ado, welcome, Harry. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So you've been working on Elk Creek Ranch now for almost 2 years. Before we go into kind of the specifics, can you give us an overview of Elk Creek Ranch and how this is maybe a little bit different than other properties that people think of when they think of ranches?
Yeah, so Elk Creek's original concept was to become, the preeminent private fly fishing ranch in the Western U.S., and they've been successful in doing that. Over the years, they've continued to add on additional deeded property, expand the fishing, while still maintaining only 65 owners. Right now, they control 15,000 acres of deeded land, 30 miles of private fly fishing, and then an additional 15,000 acres controlled through lease or easement for fishing and hunting.
Wow. And with that, it's 65 owners. How does that work with ownership? I know there's an HOA. Is there kind of a buy-in from all the owners of how the property is ran? How does that kind of work as an owner?
Yeah, so it functions essentially as an HOA. You buy a lot, and lots are about an acre in size. You kind of have 4 different options there. So if you want to own a lot down by the river, we sell river lots. We have lots up on the bench, which kind of sit overlooking the White River, which runs through the property. We have village lots, which are kind of just right there by the fly shop lodge. And then mountain lots are, like a 10-minute drive from the ranch headquarters and offer a little bit more seclusion. So, from an ownership perspective, you kind of have an option as far as where you would potentially want to build. But there's no requirement to build up there. So there's only 12 homes on the property, but there are 65 lots platted.
Oh, wow. So people are really buying in for the fishing component, not necessarily to build their dream house.
Yeah, I think that for a lot of our owners up there, the guest cabins on the ranch have been sufficient. I think there's 11 total bedrooms there on the ranch. So, when 80% of our members come and visit, they're just staying in those guest cabins.
Got it. And you mentioned, okay, so now going kind of more into the fishing piece. You mentioned 30 miles of river, which is incredible.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
What is the fishing experience like at ECR? What makes it so different than any other kind of fishing experience you might find on just like a private deeded ground?
Yeah, I think that up there's so much variety of water. And so, you see fishing properties come on the market and, maybe there's 2 miles of river and you're going to spend $5 million, $10 million for just a small stretch. And up there, the price point's a lot lower for, 30 miles, like you said, is pretty unprecedented. So I think Elk Creek provides a great alternative to standalone ranch ownership too, because you don't have to deal with any ownership burden. The managers and the fishing guides manage it for you. It's plug and play. You just kind of show up and the whole place is ready to go. And meticulously managed by the staff that they have up there.
Awesome. And is part of the management kind of stream restoration and improving the river? Or is that not a part of kind of the overall management plan of the HOA?
Yeah, definitely. They are always kind of managing the fishery, cutting out willows, trying to open up more river up there. I think the one thing that stands out to me about the way that they manage the place is they are really meticulous about how they manage pressure. So there's a beat system. I think there's 24 total beats, and those beats are allocated for a half a day of fishing. And so they can really spread pressure out up there and not be hammering the same water over and over again, which is, just great for the fish populations. They're super healthy.
So for those listening who might not know what a beat is, Can you give us a little
Yeah.
layman's
So
terms?
a beat would be a section of stream. So it's, they kind of range and they're designed for two people for a half day, is how they allocate, the distance of river. So they just kind of chop up their sections and, you're getting ready to go out with a guide and he's going to put you on, buckles A stretch. So, that'll be the section that you fish for the morning.
Okay, great. And how many guides are up there at Elk Creek Ranch to be able
I
to
think
kind of handle all these?
full time they have 5, and then in the summer they'll have 2 or 3 that come in as kind of extra help. But it's really awesome because those guides that are there, they're full time, and Elk Creek's the only place that they're guiding, so they really are knowledgeable on the rivers and the access, and they're all local guides, so they're all Meeker residents who've been guiding for 10, 15, 20 plus years, some of whom have been with the property since before it was even developed into what it is today.
And I know you just kind of started working on it, but do you know if there's been a big difference in kind of the health of the stream since it started, since these guides have kind of been there and the stream restoration has happened?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they've, as 65 owners are now up there using it, they really stress spreading pressure out, like I've mentioned. And they're able to do that because of the amount of access that they have. You see other properties in the shared ranch space that, are touting private water. They might have 5 miles of river. Elk Creek has 30, so they're really able to spread that pressure out. And, during peak season, in the middle of the summer between, end of June and middle of September, call it, they aren't fishing the same beat twice in one day. So
Right.
it just keeps the place pristine and it keeps the fish happy.
Yeah, lets the river kind of breathe a little bit.
Yeah, they let it rest.
Yeah. So I know you've been up there a lot with showings. It's definitely a hot ticket item here at Mirr Ranch Group. When owners go up there, what is a typical kind of day in the life of fishing at Elk Creek? You wake up, you have breakfast at the lodge. Kind of walk us through what that looks like.
Yeah, so either you're staying in your house that you've built or you're staying in one of the cabins. Sign up the night before, let the outfitting manager, how many will be in your group. And then usually those trips will take off at, 9 a.m. after you've had breakfast. You can kind of do whatever you want, really. If you get in touch with, if you want to leave or want to get up early, you can do that. Or, you want to have a mellow morning. But yeah, you'll have breakfast. And then the outfitter center right there is just across the street from where you're going to have breakfast. And then you'll hop in a Suburban and they'll take you where, to whichever beat you've requested or wherever they think is going to be good.
Lunch is provided, all the stuff.
Yeah. So you can either come back to the lodge for lunch, which is always, the food up there is incredible. Chef John does an excellent job. Or, if you wanted to do a full day and have a streamside lunch, they can cater to that too. One thing that they've started doing in the last couple summers is doing horseback trips up into the national forest. So there's some really cool alpine lakes if you wanted to do like a full day, kind of rough it, get on a horse and hike up to some high alpine lakes. It's really cool opportunity there too.
And all of these things are really just available to members at Elk Creek. This isn't something like if you're kind of a neighbor or something like this. Like,
no,
it's
just
exclusive.
Members and their guests, which is pretty incredible. The 30 miles is just unprecedented amount of access for just 65 people. Like you said, it's just for members. This might be a pretty obvious question, but what is the benefit of having a guide instead of just going out there and fishing yourselves? Because I know at Elk Creek, and let me know if I'm wrong here, but you have to have a guide if you're going to fish along the White River and everything like that. What's kind of the benefit of that? So a lot of the fishing, a lot of it is satellite to the main ranch. So there's about 6 miles of river that are kind of right there on the White at main Elk Creek Ranch, we call it, that you can fish without a guide. But outside of that, you're driving up or down to a controlled piece of property through lease or easement that, they want to control those with guides. So, an owner isn't going and getting on some guy's ranch and doesn't know his way around. But, I always say that if I used to guide and I would always prefer to fish with a guide. It's, just a much more fun experience. And those guys know the place so well that it's, to your advantage to use one always, I think. And the other thing up there is that those guys just know it so well. They've been there for 30, one of the guides that I usually stay with when I'm doing my showings has been guiding on the white in Meeker for 30 years. So it's pretty special to be able to spend time on the water with a guy who's been doing it for that long.
Yeah, for sure. And with 30 miles, it seems like there's probably some sections that are better than others. How different is the river from section to section?
Yeah, so there's kind of three main fisheries there. You have Elk Creek, which is kind of a classic small water, a little bit higher alpine, kind of has a steep grade. You can still catch some big fish in there, but it's kind of a small water fishery. And then the White River, kind of the main stretch that they fish the most up there, is just a classic Colorado freestone fishery. Big fish. They've got a lot of great beats and great sections that they've done stream work to keep fish where they know they're going to be. And then the South Fork of the White on the YZ Ranch, which is one of the major leases that Elk Creek holds, is very technical spring creek fishing where they 95% dry fly only. You can't fish. The same beat does not get fished 2 days in a row. So they rest it for a day in between every time it's been fished. That to me is kind of the crown jewel of the property. You get some of the purest strain cutthroats in the state of Colorado. Colorado Parks and Wildlife did a study up there a couple of years ago. And, it's big wild fish on dry flies. So that's kind of the more technical side of it. But there's really something for everyone. I mean, I think you could take someone who's never fished a day in their life and get them on a great, big rainbow right there on the white. And then you could take someone who's fished everywhere in the world and take them to the South Fork of the White and some of the best technical dry fly fishing I've seen on a private property.
That's awesome. And for people who aren't big fishermen, what kind of other activities? I know Elk Creek has a lot of other things. You talked about the hunting lease and stuff like that. What are some of the other activities up there?
Yeah, so the elk hunting is huge in the fall. The recent purchase of the Seven Lakes Ranch, which used to be owned by Greg Norman in 2022, has really expanded that hunting program. They added another 12,000 acres of deeded property. So the elk hunting is pretty incredible. The success rates are incredibly high. And so that's kind of, where everyone's focus shifts in the fall. But, say you're up there in the summer and you don't want to go fish all day. They have an epic 18-hole sporting clays course that was also a part of that Seven Lakes property. It's gorgeous up there. It overlooks the river. And then, like I mentioned, they have horseback riding. So if you wanted to go do just a trail ride, that's totally an option. And, the trail systems that they have for hunting up there are epic hiking trails during the summertime. So a lot of people will, hop on a side-by-side, go up to a high elevation trail and just kind of hike around for the day.
With the, going back to the fishing, when is the peak time for fishing up at Elk Creek? I know I was just up in Gateway this past weekend. We went through Rifle and the rivers are way high, a little scary
they're
now.
gushing right now. Yeah. So the peak season for fishing would be the end of June, kind of when runoff ends is how they define it, which is obviously different every year when you're dealing with a freestone fishery without controlled flow. So that's kind of up to the ranch manager to decide, when he starts to define peak season, but it usually runs from the end of June to the middle of September.
And so is that kind of the peak time where everyone kind of comes to Elk Creek? When is it, peak season?
Yeah, definitely. I think that, most of the people that are wanting to spend time up there, they come during the middle of the summer. But that being said, there's so you can have the place to yourself in March and April, even February, and catch those spring days before runoff starts where the fishing can just be epic. And then the same thing goes for the fall, like late September through October, you'll get a bunch of really nice days. And been up there on showings where we're the only people on the entire ranch. And those kind of, awesome. We call it shoulder season.
How many properties? I know we've been working on Elk Creek Ranch for almost 10 years now.
Yeah, 8 years, 10 years.
How many listings do you guys have right now?
We have 7 up there right now. We've got a lot of inventory, and that's good for buyers because they have options on their lots. I think it's easier for them to make a distinction. Whereas, if we were to have 3 listings, their choices are a lot less limited with the amount of inventory that we have right now.
And the clients that you have worked with, because I know it's been a few, what has their overall experience been after buying into Elk Creek Ranch? What have their kind of comments been about the fishing, about the service, all of the different kind of aspects?
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts with our showing. 90% of the time, we'll get our buyer clients on the river for a day, which is a great way to sell a lot because, they go out and they have an epic day fishing and kind of sells itself that way. But a lot of, our newer members, newer owners, kind of their plan is to feel it out for a year and decide if they want to build a house or not. Like I said, just make use of the cabins up there. Maybe go 4 times and do fishing trips and then kind of feel it out from there to see if they want to move forward with building a house. But all of our feedback has been incredibly positive. The management up there is very welcoming, and all the other, it's a very social club. You go up in the middle of the summer and there's 8 other families in the lodge for dinner. And, they're all really excited to have new faces around. So, all of our feedback from new owners has been incredibly positive.
And I feel like it's nice too. It's, very similar, probably like-minded buyers buy into something like this. Because if you're going to spend your money on an opportunity like this, you're going to be around people who have that same kind of ethos of wanting to explore and fish and kind of be outside. So it's probably a pretty cool group of people that have decided to invest up there.
Yeah, definitely. And it's cool because they're from all over the country. We get owners from New York, California, Texas, South Carolina. So they are people whose paths probably haven't crossed before. And they all have this, like-minded mindset with a passion for the outdoors. And that's why they're there.
And I know you said you've actually never had the chance to fish up there yet, but what have you heard about like the size of fish? Give me like a...
I mean, we've had some clients up there that have got their lifetime size trout in their first day fish, in their 2 hours they get to go fish. It's pretty cool to go out and watch them interact with the guides and then hook up on a monster. They see why all the other members are there pretty immediately.
Yeah. It's like, it makes you feel like a really good fisherman, no matter who you are. That's when you know.
I mean, and like I said, they cater to anglers of any skill level up there. You could have never touched a fly rod before and go out and have an epic day and catch a bunch of fish or be an expert and, go want to challenge yourself on some, difficult technical water.
So now, Hare, we're going to do some rapid fire questions to see your fly fishing kind of knowledge and to get some further expertise from one of our best fly fishing guides on the team. Okay, so early morning or late evening fishing, which do you prefer?
Late evening.
Okay. Is that why that? Just because of the light? All
yeah,
that
I feel like I've had so many experiences, on like a late evening float, getting in right before the sun goes down, and that's always kind of when stuff starts to go right. You can have a horrible day and then, have a great last 30 minutes right before dark. And yeah, it's been some fun memories with my dad and my brother and my buddies fishing. It's always seems to be like the half hour before it gets dark.
I love that. A little sundowner. What's your go-to snack while out on the river? And beer can be an answer.
Uncrustables. And beer.
Uncrustables. Okay. Perfect. Best fishing advice you've ever received?
You got to just learn how to have fun when it's tough, because it's not always going to be easy. And, learning to just enjoy where you are, enjoy the setting, even when the fishing's tough is, always important.
You gotta teach that to my dad. There's been times where he hasn't got a thing and just loses it. So that's great advice. What's one piece of gear you can't fish without?
Fishing rod. I don't
know. Yeah, that's good. You can also plug a company if you want.
Yeah, fish pond. I feel like anything fish pond, I've always got like 6 things on me.
Yeah, I like their coloring. It's,
yeah,
I'm not as avid as you. Favorite non-fishing activity to do on a ranch?
I love just poking around on a four-wheeler and, exploring two-track roads. That's really fun to me, being able to
That's the
get
best.
to places that you can't otherwise on a side-by-side.
Yeah, I think and it's crazy what those things can go over.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have a fishing superstition or ritual that you abide by?
No.
Favorite season for fly fishing?
I love fishing in the fall. I think, when the colors are popping and the fall, the browns always get really colored up as they're getting ready to spawn. And fall is definitely my favorite.
Yeah, it's also too hot sometimes in the summer. I don't.
Mhm.
It's nice to get in the
fish
river,
kind of
but
get
sometimes
the
too much.
trout kind of get tired after, a hot July and August, and then they kind of wake back up again in the fall a little bit. So, it's
Yeah.
my favorite time to fish.
So you're there when they wake up.
Exactly.
That's your thing. Okay, and how do you celebrate after a great day of fishing?
Definitely with the Coors Light.
There you go. That was perfect. Well, thanks, Harry, for coming on the Land Bulletin today. It was fun to hear about Elk Creek Ranch and to hear about kind of your fly fishing adventures. I've had the chance to come up to Elk Creek a few times. Haven't had the chance to fish it yet, but it really is the preeminent place that you guys have been marketing for years, and a really incredible way to own land and to be a rancher without having to manage it and to worry about a lot of the things, because the service is there. It's really an incredible spot.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like I said, it's a perfect alternative for a lot of the buyers that we see come through. They'll go visit massive standalone ranches and realize, the management burden and all the things you mentioned are just not an issue on a place like Elk Creek. So it's a special property.
It's really special. And for those of you who are listening who are interested in learning more, Harry Woodward and Daniel Carter are listing all of the Elk Creek Ranch properties. So please reach out to them if you have questions. Like Harry said, there's a couple listed. So you have a plethora of options to choose from, whether you want to be closer to the lodge, closer to the river, in the mountains with a little bit more privacy. The world is your oyster. So give us a call whenever you can. And then thanks again, Harry, for coming on the show.
Yeah, no problem. Enjoy it.
See you guys next time. Thanks for joining us today. To learn more about the ranch real estate market or our ranch marketing process, make sure to subscribe to our newsletter on our website at mirranchgroup.com or give us a call at 303-623-4545. See you next time.